Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial. We're going to be painting this tiger. So I want to go briefly over the things that you guys are going to need. As far as brushes go, big round Filbert, Filbert brushes, which are like the big rounder shape ones. Filbert, you could also use, you might end up using some smaller Filberts about this size. Possibly might need some square brushes, like smaller square brushes. But as we get into it, I'll try to remember to show you the brushes that I'm using. And then for smaller detail work, we might be using like a round brush. So we'll see what we use when we get to it. But those are just some of the brushes that are good to have on hand. But we're going to start with big brushes and work our way to smaller brushes, but I'll go over that later. I'm going to be using acrylics, possibly some inks today, maybe some different markers. You can be expressive with this piece. You can totally make it your own. You can use whatever colors you want. I'm just showing you what I'm using. And then I got a big old tub of water. I always keep a spray bottle of water as well, so that way I can kind of mist my acrylic every so often, like from a height about 2 feet above it, so that way it doesn't dry on you, because acrylic does dry fairly fast. I might be using some, what is this, Amsterdam ink. You're gonna need some gloss glazing liquid from Golden. Trying to think, it's always good to have a towel lying around as well for your brush to dry it off, so you'll need a towel. You can use paper towels if you would like. You can totally use that. Just, I'm like used to painting with oil fairly often. So with that, you have to use a cotton rag. You can't use paper towels. So it kind of throws me off. So this size canvas that I'm actually using is a 16 by 12. And you can sketch on the image, which you should have gotten in the email, of the actual tiger. The image I pulled off Pinterest, so I'm not saying I took that photo or anything. I got that off Pinterest. And then I just turned it into a black and white, because it's a lot easier to see values with black and white. And if I see a photo that's like realistic and it has all the color and everything, I'm gonna paint what I see. So this way I can actually see the values that are there, and then I can use whatever colors I want. As long as it matches the value for that area, it'll work perfect. So I'm gonna go over some of the colors as I get them out on my palette. Hopefully I covered everything. You can print out this tiger source if you want to, if you prefer to hold it. I do have a stand that holds my iPad, which is a lot easier because I used to hold it. It was super heavy. I don't have a fancy printer, so, but this is, since it's black and white, it should be easy enough just to print it off if you need to. But I recommend a full, was it 8 by 10 regular sheet of paper if you do. Okay, and as far as getting your image on there, you can freehand sketch it on there if you want to, or you can use a projector. It's entirely up to you. I don't judge. I do use a projector a lot of times with my way big canvases, because it takes a long time to make sure everything's in proportion, and that's not my favorite step as far as my process. So I do enjoy, I do project once in a while, and then I go in with charcoal to darken up some areas. And charcoal is definitely one of my favorites. It's messy, it's fun, it kind of helps you loosen up and not be so meticulous. Gets me out of that like perfectionist mode. So I do love using charcoal. But yeah, so I did do a sketch on here of the tiger. So you can do that beforehand, before we get started, and definitely before you put your paint out. I'm not sure if I'm going to be using yellow or not, but I'm going to go ahead and squirt out some of these. It might take me a minute to get some of them open. These things are handy to have around. So this one is Alizarin Crimson, and you guys can be fairly generous with your paint. Acrylic, you definitely want to be more generous. If it was oil, you would use barely anything. And then this one is Vivid Pink by Da Vinci. It's like my absolute favorite. Vivid Pink is by them. So I'm gonna squirt that out. That was a lot, but that's okay. And then I have Luminous Rose by Holbein. And this one's definitely very neon-y. I love it. It's their Luminous collection. Oh, I wonder if I have a Luminous Blue. I didn't even check to see if I had that. That would have been cool. And then this one is Burnt Sienna by Golden. And most of these colors are going to be transparent. This one is Phthalo Green, the blue shade, Golden, Prussian Blue. Oh, I always tear up my hands, like thinking I can open these. Like I said, I don't use acrylics a whole lot anymore. I'm usually painting with oil, but I do love both. This one is light phthalo blue. And like I said, you guys can use any colors that you want. Okay, you don't have to use what I'm using. Entirely up to you. That was a lot of that. I don't think I'm gonna be using that much of that color, but that's okay. And this one's dioxazine purple. Getting it everywhere. Okay, and then also by Holbein, I have Amethyst. This color is hard to find, like very hard to find. And it's one of my absolute favorite purples to use, especially with like oranges. Oh, they look so good. Okay, so those are the colors I have squirted out so far. I might end up using more, who knows? I still don't know about the yellow, if I want to use the yellow or not. I don't know. Okay. Before I get started with that, I actually kind of want to be a little loose on this painting. I kind of want to like add some marks. So I'm actually going to take this Acrylic by Montana water-based paint marker. It's 50 mm. And I love this. We're just going to make some abstract marks on here. If you guys have like Caran d'Ache crayons or like any kind of paint acrylic markers, you could totally just have some fun with this. But I'm going to press as lightly as possible so that way I don't completely lose my drawing. But I kind of just want to add some fun little marks. So let's see. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want to add a little something. And don't forget your sides when you're painting. It's always good to carry everything you do off the sides of the canvas. And kind of just want to do like a little rainbow thing right here. There we go. Totally random. I don't know why, I just wanted to do that. So I did it. So you guys can totally add random marks, whatever you want in this stage. The beginning stage is super fun, super loose. That way you don't get too much into like perfectionism. But I do like to make little marks and do little abstract-y things before I do the first layer of washes. And let's see. I love these. This one is a Krink pen, the acrylic Krink pens, and it's like a neon pink. And I'm trying to think, where do I want to put hot? And a lot of this stuff might get covered up in the end, totally okay. There we go. Had to put a heart in there. Oh, and I almost forgot. Make sure you guys spray your painting or your sketch with a fixative. I can't believe I forgot that. Make sure you guys spray it with a workable fixative. Very heavy-handed. You're gonna spray it like 2 to 3 inches above it and let it dry, and then do a second coat, and it only takes like 3 to 5 minutes to dry. Do this outside, okay? Whew, it is some stinky stuff. And then you'll just go in the second time and spray it again, just to make sure that your sketch doesn't go anywhere. Good thing we didn't start painting yet. So I'm glad I said that. So yeah, definitely spray your sketch first with a fixative, a workable fixative. You can pick that up at Walmart. Literally, it's like $8 or $9. It's not that expensive. So yeah, so I just like to make some fun little marks before I get started with painting. So I normally use like a giant brush at first, but this one is my oil brush and I don't want to like use it with the acrylic right now, so I'll just use a smaller version. But you're gonna always start with bigger brushes and work your way down to smaller ones as you get to more and more detail. So yeah, I'm gonna be using this Filbert brush to start with. Plus it covers a lot of the canvas fairly quickly. The first stage we're gonna just do some washes, which goes really quick. Like you can pick any of the colors that you want for this stage. And for me, I kind of want to, well, I gotta let this dry a little bit more, because I don't want it to go anywhere. Oh, that one's already dry. Okay, so I'm just kind of waiting for that pink to dry. So for this one, I think I'm gonna start with some burnt sienna, and I'm gonna water this down heavily, so that way it's more transparent. The wash stage is one of my favorite stages because you can do whatever you want. Like as long as your paint is super transparent, the more water you add, the more transparent your color will be. The less water, the more pigmented. So you want to water it down as much as possible in this stage so it doesn't cover up your drawing. So you can literally put it on anywhere you want. You can let it drip. It doesn't have to be perfect. But the whole point is just to kill the white with this stage, which means you're getting rid of all the white on the canvas. And you don't have to cover the entire thing with paint. I try to, but it's not like, you don't absolutely have to. I think I kind of want to add a little bit of the pink. So I'm going to take some of that vivid pink. Hopefully I'm not covering the canvas while I'm painting. And I'm just going to use some of the vivid pink on here too. Just kind of change up the color a little bit. Give it some variation. And add some more of this raw sienna. I'm trying to remember my sides because I tend to forget, and then at the very end, like after everything's already dry, then you can go back in with some of the same colors you painted with, and you can do the sides. And then I kind of wish I had an indigo. Bummer deal. I'm gonna kind of mix some of that pink with the raw or burnt sienna. Just get a little bit darker color. And just kind of place it wherever. This step shouldn't take very long. It should only take you like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Kind of color do I want to use for the bottom? Kind of want to darken it up a little bit. Okay, I'm actually going to use some burnt umber as well. So I'm going to get just a couple drops. You only need like a tiny bit of the inks because they're very pigmented. Okay, so I'm gonna add a bunch of water to this because this is very dark, and it's okay if it mixes with some of the other colors on the palette. It's a good idea to kind of mix some of the other colors that you have going on. Helps make a more cohesive painting. And I do like to let some of these drips dry before I go in and manipulate that area, just because I enjoy the drips. I really do. Right. And let's see, what other color could I use? maybe I'll use a little bit of the purple, the amethyst. Water that down quite a bit too. I really do love this sage, I'm telling you. I really love it. And you can make cool little marks with your brush too. You don't have to hold it the exact same way the whole time. You can just kind of scrub it around. The whole point is just to cover the canvas, just to get some paint on there. And the cooler, like the marks that come up, that's just part of the process. Whoops. You just gotta kind of go with the flow. Makes it way more interesting for a background. Looking good. And I probably did miss some of the sides, but that's okay. I'm not too worried about it. All right, now when it comes to this next stage, it's glazing. And this is where you're gonna put in your midtones and your darkest darks. And a lot of the times I do like to fill in my darkest darks like in the beginning stages with charcoal, just because I love that look. Or you can use, let me go grab another, where is my caboodle thing? Okay. You can also use things like a solid marker by Sakura. These ones are freaking awesome. You could use a Krink pen if you want to. You can use the Molotow acrylic paint markers. You could use those to make it more expressive and loose. You could use those as well. So just for an example, like the solid marker, I love using the solid markers because you can just go in, where's a drier area? And it just kind of gives it a little something else. A little more personality. So where you see the darkest darks in your source is where you would put like this black paint stick, basically. And you don't have to do the entire thing if you don't want to. You can do all the blacks in this if you wanted to. But me personally, I just like to do a couple areas. I don't like to do the entire piece. But just for this video's sake, I figured I would kind of just show you how, just to be a little bit more expressive with it. Maybe even like an area around the eye, because this area is black. And don't worry if you accidentally get it outside your line, you're gonna paint over it with the brightest brights anyway. So, nothing to fear. Like that, I got way too above the line. No big deal. Totally fine. You'll be able to fix it and cover it up. This is just fun. I feel like I'm coloring. So, let's see. It's gonna be kind of fun to do. Especially because we don't really get to do fun things like this anymore as we get older. And this one, I kind of lost the line. Whoops. Okay. Let's see. This also, I kind of feel helps map out areas that like may have gotten lost. Like I kind of covered up this area a little bit, but that's okay. You can just kind of go back in and figure out where the lines are that you put on there. Just kind of darken it back up. Kind of helps you keep your drawing a little bit. But the point is to be loose and free with this. And sometimes it is kind of hard to see your sketch when you get paint on it, but it's fine. Like, don't stress about it. Just remember, it's just a canvas. You can always go over it with paint. You can fix it. You can paint over the whole entire thing with gesso as long as you have like acrylic paint on there. Obviously, once you get oil, it's kind of a different story. I know I said I was only going to do a little bit of this, and I get carried away. I just love using these. Like, they're just so fun to use. So yeah, you can take it as far as you want. You can do as little as you want. Entirely up to you. How much you want to cover with different mediums. I just thoroughly enjoy using these. And I haven't done it in a while, so I'm kind of like going overkill on it, but that's okay. So some of these spots I'm going to put in there. This one, that one. And then for an example, you can also use the Molotow pens. And these ones are more for like a fine line. And you have to kind of tap those just to get them activated and get them going. So this is how you would use these. And I'm just kind of glancing back over at my reference just to make sure that I'm actually following the correct lines here. Yeah, you always want to keep your source in front of you. Definitely helps. You don't want to get the wrong angles of your sketch. Yeah, this one I typically don't use a whole lot, but I do enjoy using this one. And then I feel like I get way too perfectionist mode when I use this one, so I try not to. But even for like areas like this, you could just kind of do some scribbly work if you want to. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, you can have fun with your piece. You can be as expressive as you want. You can even make some like random marks over here. And like I said, if you don't like how it turns out, you can just cover it up with paint. So nothing to worry about. And then, because it has been a minute, I'm just gonna mist my acrylic so that way it doesn't dry. I also keep my brush in the water so that way, you know, it's easier to clean off and paint is not drying on my brush. Okay, so now that we got some marks on there, just some random expressive marks, we're gonna do some glazing. And this is where we're gonna do some midtones and your darkest darks. I like to normally go in with my darkest darks first, just kind of map things out. Just makes it easier in my mind. But for this video, I'm gonna like focus on midtones first because I'm gonna be glazing with those first. And this is where we're gonna use the Gloss Glazing liquid by Golden. And you're just gonna squirt out like, I don't know, $50 size amount on your palette. Let's see if I can do it where you guys can see it. So I'm just gonna squirt it out about that much, like a $50 size amount. And we're gonna mix that with our paint. So to find your midtones, you're gonna look at your source and you're gonna kind of squint your eyes, and where you see that it's darker, like for example in this, you're gonna look at the fur. Let me see if I can take it off. You're gonna look at the fur and you're gonna kind of squint and see where it's darker. So if you see in this area right here on the face, under the eye, down here in the chest and the side, it's definitely darker up here by the ear. So we're gonna just glaze those areas with a color that matches the value, okay? So I think I'm gonna use a purple to do that. And if this one isn't dark enough, I'll darken it up. I'm gonna use the amethyst first, and I'm gonna take some of the gloss gel, gloss glazing liquid, and if you have to, you can add a little bit more water because this color is pretty pigmented, but we want it to be as transparent as possible. So I'm probably gonna add more water to that. That is definitely not as transparent as I was hoping it would be. It's also not as dark. So I might take some dioxazine purple, just a tad, mix it up over here. That's the purple I'm going for. Can you guys even see that? I hope so. Okay, I'm gonna get some more of that gloss glaze medium. I do a lot of color mixing. I absolutely love mixing colors. I'm gonna add a ton more water to this. And, oh, here I go with habit holding the, still have a habit of holding my source. Okay, so another reason too I like to put in my darks is because when I do things like this and it's not transparent enough, I tend to lose some of my lines. So you can just add water on your palette like this, water it down, or once you get it on your canvas, you can also water it down as well. So I'm gonna use the side of my brush just to kind of get some of these midtones in, but I'm also gonna kind of water it down a little bit. As you can see, it's a fairly dark or more opaque color, but I'm just gonna kind of put this where I see it's darker in the fur. And you do not have to be perfect about this as far as if you go over where it's actually white in some areas, because it's going to be covered up with the white. So don't stress, just go with it. So just where you kind of notice it's a little darker in value with some of that fur. And I like this stage too because it's also very messy. Notice some under the eye right here. It's darker. And drips are fun, so don't beat yourself up if it's dripping. That's okay. I'm gonna get under the chin here. On this side, the fur is a little darker over here. And like I said, you can hold your brush in many different ways. Like, you don't have to be super perfect about it. I'm just kind of seeing, like I said, where it's like darker in the fur. And obviously the black is black, but you're gonna look for what's in between that. It's the dark gray on your source. There's a little bit under the mouth here. Kind of goes down. Kind of on the snout. Definitely comes down this way. And goes up here. And I tend to look at my source a lot, which is very important that you get in the habit of checking your source. A little dark right there. And then where is my down in the chest area, under the chin. Here, go through here. And don't worry, you can always go in and darken things up later as well. because you can go in and do glazes again after, even after you put opaques on. If you need to darken up an area even more, you can totally go in and do another glaze. And then if you want, you can also make some cool marks. You can do some splatters with your paint, because you can still be pretty expressive with this step. And I love working with acrylics, especially for doing tutorials, because they don't dry too fast, or they dry fast, sorry. But then again, there's a time and a place for oil paint too, which I love. I love oil paint. I didn't necessarily leave too much white, but I do like how this color is mixing over here with the purple and the raw sienna. So I think I'm just gonna kind of make that happen right here. I don't know why, but sometimes you just gotta do the things that you just feel like you should do. Just do it. Because you never know what it's gonna add to your piece. Oh, this is so much fun. Okay, that was a lot of purple, but that's okay. So the lighter areas in here help with keeping your lighter values. So as you guys can see, the purple should, or you know, if you're using purple, should match, you know, the darker tones where it's the dark gray, not black, but like the darker areas in the face and the body. So that's what we're going for. We're just working with the different values. And then if you want to, you could also do a different color for the lighter areas. So like you could do, I almost want to do like a neon pink. I know it's kind of weird. You don't have to. You can totally leave it like this and then start going to the darkest darks and then go to your lighter colors, like your lighter midtones to brights. But I kind of think I do want to do some neon pink. I don't know why, but I'm going to. So that Luminous Rose by Holbein that I put down, I'm actually going to take that, get some of that gloss, the gloss glaze medium, add some more water to it. I like this layer to be really, really wet and runny. So I think I'm gonna kind of put it where some of the white is gonna be. I don't know why, but I want to, so I'm just gonna do it. Even up here, because it's pretty. And just kind of adds a little bit more colors, just some more dimension. But you notice how this pink is lighter value than the purple. The purple is darker than this. So hopefully that kind of helps with like the value, figuring out value a little bit. Just put a little bit above the nose, but it is still a darker value in general than what we already have on the ground. I want to take some down the nose. Don't know why, but I wanted to. And then let's see, this, and then I'm going to do this side. Do a little bit over here. And maybe a little bit right here. And do some more splatters, just because I can. Ooh, that's pretty. And where else? just wanted to have some like different variation of color. So it's not all same background. Just kind of throw some on there. Maybe even add a little bit up here. I'm not really caring too much what's on the source, just kind of playing with the pink for now, just because it sounded fun. Maybe put a little bit right here. Try to mix it up. And I've kind of lost a lot of my drawing over here, but that's okay. Just kind of winging it. It is kind of a brighter color right there, so let's just add some pink there. Just kind of like to give it some dimension. There we go. Okay. I feel like I've made a pretty good mess. And then I might need to clean my palette a little bit because I do have quite a bit of color out, and I want to make sure you guys can at least fairly see what I'm doing, so just use my blade really quick, kind of clean up some of my mess here. That way I got more area to work with. And it's fairly easy to do when it's still wet. If it kind of dries on you, if it's far enough away from your actual paint that you squirted out, you could spray some alcohol on it to clean up the more dry product that's on there. So I'm just gonna scrape some of that up. And I'm not speeding up the process. I'm not editing this video because I don't want to accidentally leave out something that somebody else could have benefited from or learned from. So I'm just gonna throw that on the floor because my trash can's on the other side of my studio. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, this is the new studio. My husband and I built this, and it took us about, oh my gosh, probably a year. I'm gonna spray my acrylic really quick because I can see it's trying to dry. Okay, so now that I have a cleanish area to work with again. Yeah, it took us about a year to get this going, but it's perfect space. Perfect. Okay, let's focus. All right, let's get the darkest darks in there. And this should be drying fairly quickly. I'm just kind of giving it a minute here. I could take a blow dryer to it, but I'm not quite sure where my blow dryer is. Everything's been moved around since moving everything out to the new studio, so it is kind of chaotic trying to figure out where everything has gone. Take a coffee moment. Coffee. Oh my gosh, I love this. I love it. And knowing me, after I'm done with this, I'm gonna go in with oil to glaze some more of the darks because I love working with oil. It just makes everything so rich and like come to life. But for this video, I'll probably go in and just glaze with the acrylics to darken up areas if I need to. All right, so yeah, that is still pretty damp. Let me see if I can find my blow dryer really quick. Where are you? Oh, right there. Perfect. Now let's see if I can make it reach. That's the key. Blow dry it if I Okay, so that's gonna take a minute for some of those bigger drips. Another thing that is fun to do on some of the pieces that I've done in the past at this stage is when it still has some barely any wet areas is to take some paper towel, kind of rub it on there, and it will leave this really cool like texture underneath. So you're not ruining your piece, so don't stress about that if it's not like bone dry when you're doing this. But this will just help be able to get to the next, kind of like that pink, so I don't want to mess that up. I don't want to take it off. There we go. Okay, so the rest of that should dry fairly quickly. Excuse me. And I'm going to put in the darkest darks where I see them. Now to make a really rich dark, I'm actually going to mix some phthalo green, Prussian blue, dioxazine purple, and alizarin crimson to make a rich black. I don't always use straight black. Most of the time I don't. Some pieces I do. I'll use like a carbon black because it's very matte. But for this one, we're just going to make a rich black. So we're going to mix alizarin crimson, phthalo green, Prussian blue, and dioxazine purple. But I want this one to be more on the bluish side. So as you look at your color on your palette, as you're mixing it, you can kind of see which direction it's leaning more toward color-wise. And it's still pretty purple. So I'm gonna add more blue and a little bit more red. So it's not just blue and purple. But yeah, I definitely want it to be more blue. Can you guys see that? There we go, that's definitely way more blue. Okay, so I'm still using a big brush. Now, when we're painting, we work thin to thick with oil. It's kind of the same concept here, but we also work light to dark. So with the washes, we did transparent, very, very, very light, and you work toward the darkest colors first. So you're also painting the back to front and large brushes to small brushes. So with this, I'm just gonna go in and cover the darkest darks, which would be the black value on your source. And you can hold your brush any direction, any way that is comfortable, but it's good to kind of change it up a little bit and do just different variations with your brush so you're not just doing the same brush strokes everywhere. Now it's starting to look a little purple. Let me pick up some more blue. And you can use that gloss glazing liquid in there too, if you would like. I totally spaced grabbing it, but that's okay. And like I said, I'm just doing where I see the darkest values. Don't stress, like I said, if you get it in an area that You didn't intend to. Relax. It's okay. Don't be crazy critical. Just have fun. Painting is fun. You can fix it later. You can... It's hard to talk while you're painting. Yeah, you can always go in and fix it later if you need to. And doing the more fine detail like this, sometimes you might want to move down to a smaller brush, but I'm still trying to be loose with what I'm doing. So, trying not to get into perfection mode. And to do, like, you don't have to paint these individual strands. You can use your brush to just kind of give the illusion. I'm using the side of my brush, give the illusion of hair or fur. And just kind of brushing outward. And you want to go the direction that you see the fur. So if the fur is going down, like this direction, you want to paint that direction down, if that makes sense. Because you can see how it's giving that texture kind of look of fur. And I'm gonna get some more of that glazing gloss medium here. I'm just gonna kind of fan it out a little bit more right here. There we go. And just kind of like a little spot right there. I'm just trying to go with the direction that I see the fur. And another reason I don't like to edit my videos is because I don't want to give that expectation that like painting is super fast. Some people can paint really fast, don't get me wrong, but not everybody paints extremely fast. But you'll see with this process that it does tend to go fairly quickly in itself. So I really enjoy this process. So with the bottom area, I want to be more loose and expressive around the outside, because the more rendered you make an area, that's where your eye is going to be drawn. So if I'm more loose like down here and not really caring, so like I'm still going to care which way my brush strokes go, but the less detailed you get, like it won't draw people's attention there, if that makes any sense. So like this area kind of goes down and to a point. There we go. And it's gonna kind of put some lines up here. And there's one right here. Okay, is that taking you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I am recording.
do I take
The
her
Christmas
bucket?
gift? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, is it the one with the chicken in it?
Yes, it's got the little stuffies that you put in there. Okay. Okay, I'll give you a hug and kiss, but I'm trying to film.
Sorry.
I love you.
Ah.
All right. Love you.
I do. There's vintage donut thingy by your on air sign.
Oh, do you want to bring it in here for me? Sorry, guys. Thank you. Okay. See you later. This is the joys of homeschooling and having an art career at the same time. So sorry about that, guys. Let's see, where was I at? And you can vary the color too. It doesn't have to be the same color everywhere. It definitely looks better if it's not the same color everywhere. It'll feel more artistic, if you will. If you have like different slight variations of the colors that you're using. Trying to capture the darkest darks right here. And have fun with your brush strokes, guys. Like, be expressive. Don't think too hard about what you're doing. Just kind of paint what you see. Don't make it too difficult. Don't overthink it. We want this to be fairly loose and expressive. And this more fur-like. And it's hard to talk and paint at the same time, especially when you're like in your right brain painting. It is really hard to talk and paint at the same time. So not trying to ignore you guys. So we're just painting in the darkest darks. As you can see, it's starting to show that contrast. It's really starting to bring this piece to life. And my color's ending up a lot more purpley than blue, but that's okay. I can go back in and fix it. Let's see, which spot am I at? Sometimes I end up losing my place where I'm at, and I kind of jump around. I don't like to focus on like one specific area at a time. I do like to jump around the piece. And this step shouldn't take too long. I guess it just kind of depends on how much of your drawing you can see as well. Because sometimes we end up losing some of it. There we go. More up here. Get some more color on there. go. Starting to come to life. And like this area right here is actually supposed to be a darker mid-tone, so I will have to go back in there and darken that up some. And then let's see if I can work from the other side really quick. It'll make it easier for my brush strokes. But you want to mimic the direction that the fur is going so that it looks more on the realistic side. Excuse me. And then, let's see, this one kind of up and out. And like I said, around the outside, I'm going to be more expressive. I'm going to be way more looser with these brush strokes on the outside because I don't want it to draw your eye there, per se. So the more detailed you make it, that's where people's eyes are going to go. Okay, where else? Trying to see some under the chin. Am I blocking? I hope I'm not blocking. Sorry about that, guys. Do this spot. Back over here so I can see my stars. Alright. So a lot of this side I kind of lost a little bit with that marker that I used. So it might take me a minute to recenter myself. I think I'm gonna make this more blue. It's definitely starting to lighten up on me again. I want it more blue. There, there, that. So that's another reason I really like to use like the solid markers too, and making other marks on here, because then it helps you be able to see your lines as well. You're less likely to lose them if you've made some previous marks. Keeps your drawing there. Some more paint on my brush. It's starting to dry on me, so I gotta kind of mix up some fresh color here. Some more blue. Glazing gloss medium, spray some water, and get back to it. Yeah, that's definitely a lot darker. It's the blue I was wanting for that dark value. Alright, let me see Bear with me just a minute, guys. So my daughter's actually going on a play date at the moment, and I don't know if my husband actually got a hold of her friend to let her know. That she was coming. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Hopefully you guys can't see. Sorry. I just had to let her know that Maddie was coming down. So I'm not sure if Sean actually has the number for the other parent. Ooh, that blue is so pretty. Okay. The super detailed areas, the smaller it gets, I will end up switching to a smaller brush, but if I do it too soon, I will start getting very detailed too quickly. So I'm trying to avoid that as much as possible, because I'm very good at getting way too detailed. But these fine lines are a little hard to get with this brush. Okay, I'm gonna grab some more paint. Like that. There we go. Fan it out a little bit to give it the illusion of fur in the direction that it's going. There we go. Some of this I'm just going to go back in and darken up with the blue mixture. Because it wasn't quite dark enough for what I was going for. There we go. That looks better. Woo! When I look at it on camera, it looks really good. That's exciting. Okay, now let's see if I can find the mouth. And lightly for down here, just barely brush it. Kind of show some of those spots. And oh my goodness, that is so hard to see. Go. Ooh, my stomach's growling. This spot right here, pretty dark. Up. And if you went outside the line a little bit, you can just use your finger to fix it. smudge it back a little bit. Use your nail. Whatever you gotta do. That's funny. Okay, so this one kind of goes like this and up. And here. Kind of goes up like that. Thinner. Just kind of checking to see where it's a little bit darker. Right here. I'm gonna lightly do that area, not too dark, but lightly touch it just to give it a little bit more dimension here. Under the chin area, on the source down here, under the chin, it's pretty dark too. But I don't want to make it too realistic, so I'm just going to barely scrub it with the side here. I don't want it to be way too detailed. Let's see. And sometimes you're going to want to take a step back from your piece, like 10, 15 feet back, to kind of see how it's looking. You'll be able to tell where you need more midtones that we glazed with when you take a step back, which will be helpful because you'll see where you need to darken up the areas that weren't quite dark enough for, like, not the black value, but like the dark gray value on this. So you'll be able to tell when you stand back what you need to add and where. And if you need to, take your source with you so that way you can actually see where it needs to be added. This one going. I'm gonna darken up a little bit under here. So make sure it's at least matching the value. Scrub right there. It's hard to get that very corner or the very bottom on the easel. There we go. So I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to turn my source so I can see it. So that way I can kind of see, check and see if I got my lines where they need to be so far. So this takes just a couple minutes just to kind of see what areas need more work. And right, need to do it there a little bit. Alright, still looking at it. Just trying to see where everything's at here. Alright, I already see where I need to be adding more of the purple for mid-tones. It's hard when you're working up super close to your like source and your painting, but trying to film, it's just, sometimes it's what you gotta do. Okay. So I'm seeing some more of the areas that I could be rendering a little bit more. Let's get some more paint on there. So I know I have more areas I need to work on. Right about here. And then in this eye area. So I might step down to a fairly smaller brush. I'm not quite sure how this one's lining up, but it looks pretty good. There we go. Felt like it was missing something. This corner, same thing. Missing a little bit. So I'm gonna go down to a smaller brush so I can do some of these eye areas because they're very thin lines and around the nose. And then I can go in and kind of glaze some more of those midtones that I definitely could have done a better job on. So I'm gonna kind of scrape off some of this, the excess paint. And when I clean my brushes, you guys, I am like slamming my brush down to the bottom. Not to the point of like trying to break my brush and ruin my bristles, but just enough that it's like you're bending it and pushing it down to clean it off. And then you can run it along the side to get the water out. But that water is pretty dirty and I'm gonna just leave that brush in there for now.